And we are live. It's we just got the giggles today. It's your favorite insurance agent, Darnold Jr.
And Michelle DeSalle, the wealth tattletale.
And welcome to FinLit Live. This is a show where we get educated on personal finances. FinLit stands for financial literacy. Growing up, I feel like they didn't teach me how money works, and I'm pretty sure they did the same for you because school doesn't teach that, right?
Nope.
So that's the purpose of this show. So if that's something that's fascinating to you, go ahead and like and subscribe. If you are watching live, go ahead and put hashtag live. If you're watching a replay, put hashtag replay. Let's do something different today.
What you want to
Let
do?
us know where you're from. Like what city?
Yes.
Type in the chat. What city
Yes,
you're
that
coming
would be
from.
interesting to know.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's see where our audience is coming
Well,
from.
we're from H-Town.
H-Town, Texas represented.
Yes.
And apparently we're underwater.
You know, I saw that on the freeway. It's like, if the water's on the ground, don't drown. And I'm like, but where's the water? Okay.
Yeah, so praying for Dallas. Like, oh my gosh, you guys are getting the worst. But anyways, today's show is about, what is it about? So we're talking about how your wealth, the greatest mistake that people make when it comes to their wealth.
It's the greatest threat to building wealth. So
Absolutely.
she's going to give us some insight because I want to know what that threat is, don't y'all?
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get lit. All right, without any further ado, let's bring on Jennifer Ledwith. Hey, Jennifer.
Hey.
Hello, Darnold. Hello, do I call you Dr. DeSalle or do I call you Michelle?
You can call me Michelle, Dr. Sell. I'm one and the same. It doesn't
All
matter.
right.
Just don't call her late for dinner.
Don't.
All right. Okay.
How are you?
I'm well. How are y'all doing today?
Very good. I'm excited about this topic because, as you know, we're here to educate on various aspects of financial literacy, and we've had so many different people come on. But you say that there is a threat, and you better give up the goods, okay, Jennifer?
All right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thank you all for introducing me again. I am Jennifer Ledwith, and I'm the owner of Scholar Ready, and I am a how do I describe myself? I am a tutor who is obsessed with financial planning, and I am a certified financial planner obsessed with tutoring. So I'm obsessed with with that whole circle of education leading to financial freedom, financial empowerment, which I think leads to ultimately building a great life that that someone wants to live. The name of my company is Scholar Ready, and I have been owning and operating Scholar Ready for 18 years.
Awesome.
That's exciting.
So you would say that you're not new to it, you're true to it, right?
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so you say Scholar Ready.
Mhm.
Okay, this financial planner that is obsessed with this aspect of it. When you say Scholar Ready, can you give us some insight on what does that actually mean for our listeners?
Okay, so Scholar Ready means that I want students to be prepared for college. I want them to be prepared for the academic and the financial aspects of college, and that's why I started my business. So when we talk about the academic piece, we're talking about making sure that they are prepared for college, and usually that means making sure that they have great test scores, so that they're prepared for the PSAT, the SAT or ACT, making sure that they have those strong math skills, and making sure that they have those strong reading and writing skills. And then with their families, making sure that they understand how the process of paying for college works, the different mechanisms to pay for college. And I'm interested in the mechanisms that can reduce or eliminate student loan debt overall. So we're looking at the mechanisms of scholarships, grants, work study. I mean, even things that don't have a direct price tag on them, but even, doing well on advanced placement exams, doing well on dual credit courses, taking CLEP exams, avoiding remedial classes, those indirect things that have to do with being prepared for college. That is scholar ready. And our tagline is time for your next level. And we use our time to help our students get to their next level.
Boom, mic
Wow.
drop.
I know it. I know it. So you must
Mhm.
be a wonderful friend to parents out here, right?
Yes.
So how do you get the parents to see that you are the end all and have all the answers? So how do you go market to your parents?
Okay, so this is how I market. I always joke that that I'm running a distraught parent hotline where parents will call me and they'll say, and I'll pick up the phone and they'll say, "Hey, I need my child needs help to prepare for such and such test on this day. Can you do it?" And then I stop the parent, and usually it's a mom, and I ask, "Ma'am, what is your name? How can I help you?" So what sets Scholar Ready apart in terms of getting customers is we focus really on getting to the root of the problem. There's a famous civil rights leader, or there was a famous civil rights leader named Ella Baker. And Ella Baker would always talking about getting to the root, like being radical. And when we get radical, and I love math, I love absolutely love math. And so when we talk about being radical. We talk about getting to the root of the problem. And the way I get my customers is, people from the past. Usually, I have referrals. Parents will refer other parents to me. That's my number one source of customers. And when they call me, I'll listen to them and I will try to figure out. Okay, well, this is okay. This sounds like this is the problem. Okay, so I think that we can go about solving it this way. And then sometimes I listen to the problem and I say, well, I don't know if I can help you with that, but here's another resource. Here's someone who can help you with this subject matter because this is a subject matter that's not included in my scope.
Mhm.
Or oh, you have this student who's in this grade level. Okay, this student is not within my scope because
Yeah.
I love teenagers. Um, I think teenagers are some of the best people in the world. Um, but there are people who work with smaller children, and that's not my calling. So
Ooh.
I send them elsewhere. But yeah, the biggest source of my customers at I would say at this stage in my business is a referral from another parent.
Well, I can certainly relate to, the demographic, with my educational background. I just could not even imagine teaching small ones. I love them, but it
Mhm,
just was not my calling. So
mhm,
I can appreciate, you knowing exactly where your lane is and
mhm,
staying in your lane.
mhm.
And that leads me to another question. You love students, you love tutoring and everything, but do you have an educational background or you just have this grand love for it?
Okay, so I started my business because I wanted to. When I was in college, I had so I have a background in college. I studied finance and economics, and I wanted to become an oil and gas trader. And when I was in college, I was a really good student, and I was in all these different programs, and I hounded career services and trying to get an internship in oil and gas. I was going to be an energy trader. And this is like right after Enron failed, but I didn't know any better
Mm.
because I was in like college bubble.
Right.
And but I wanted to be an oil and gas trader. I mean, oil and gas traders still existed even after Enron failed. And I would try to get internships, and they just didn't materialize. But I did get an internship one summer, and it was I was working at a nonprofit fair trade retail store in Rice Village near Rice University, and so I had that job, and they taught me the manager of the store taught me how to sell, and I loved it. And I watched her sell, and I loved it. And I knew then that and then they put me in charge of running the store. And I knew then that I wanted to have my own business. So when I returned to college that fall, I didn't want to be an oil and gas trader anymore. I wanted to have my own business. And so when I graduated, I had a hard time finding a job. And then I said, well, I mean, I'm good at tutoring. Why don't I why don't I start that? But let me back up and say why I really wanted to start it. I graduated from college, very similar. My story is similar to Darnold's in that, well, number one, we graduated from the same high school, North Shore Mustangs.
That's right.
Um,
Okay.
and and also, Darnold was very diligent in applying for scholarships and being able to being able to graduate from college with little to no debt, and that was me. And I graduated from college I didn't have to borrow any money for college. I graduated from North Shore, so that means I
That's
am
We
huge.
encourage you.
yeah, I'm from Houston, and I graduated from the University of Oklahoma. And that's an out of state school. Back then that was what, 16,000 a year. I think now it might be. Whew, it's more. I can't remember. It's way more. 30, $40,000 a year for out of state students.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
but when I graduated with no student loan debt. Well, except I had $1,000 loan debt because I was being grown and I wanted to get a loan so I could buy plane tickets to go see my boyfriend in Houston.
Whoa.
Wow.
As one does at 20. That's how I was living.
Priorities, right?
And
Thank you for your
Yes,
transparency.
that's
you're
awesome.
welcome. And I always tell my students, don't do that.
I'll do it.
Don't do
But,
that.
but that, so I thought I thought what I had done was normal. I mean, my parents didn't pay for me to go to school. My mother was a single parent, and single parent in terms of like from a custody perspective and also from a financial perspective. And I have a twin sister, and my mother could not write a check for two checks every month or every semester or every year for college, to send us to college. And we knew that we were going to go to college. It was an expectation. And I said, well, I better apply for these scholarships because I'm leaving here. I had gone to school with the same people for 12 years. And I was like, it's time for a new world or a different world. When you watch the show Different World, I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna live on campus. I'm gonna do all of that. And my scholar, because my test scores were so good, because I am incredibly persistent. I applied from the time I was a junior in college to the time I was a junior in from the time I was a junior in high school to the time I was a junior in college. I had applied for over 30 scholarships, and
Wow.
all of my room and board was paid for by my
Wow.
scholarships. And then my first 2 years in college, I was in the participating in a program called the Room and Board Program, where working in the cafeteria for like 18, 20 hours a week, I received a paycheck to pay for my room and board. And then my second 2 years, like Darnold, I was a RA. I was a resident advisor in my last 2 years of college, and that paid for my room, board, and I was able to receive a stipend. So that's how I paid. My parents had no clue when they came to visit. We would walk past these buildings, and I would show them, hey, this is this building, this is this building. They'd be like, what is this building? I was like, this is the building I go to pay my bills. Um,
Nice.
you know, they didn't know, so it was just. I'm so grateful for that. And when I looked around, I realized that I was odd. I didn't know that. I was so naive. I didn't realize that most of my friends and my family members and my classmates who were graduating with me and beyond were graduating with tens of thousands of student loan debt. And
Absolutely.
what I remember, one of my friends was like, Jennifer, I was afraid to write the essay. I heard similar expressions of that. And I said, oh, well, I'm going to start a company where I help students to write essays, because I mean, the essays can make a really big difference when it comes to
Yeah.
scholarships. And so I told my auntie, I told my aunt, I told everybody, I said, I'm starting this business, scholar ready. I'm gonna get these scholars ready for college so they can get these scholarships and so they can be prepared to go to college and so forth, like I did.
Isn't it amazing how your passion can find you in that regard,
Mhm,
right?
Mhm.
mhm.
And it's something that you're in the midst of, you're living that, you're witnessing that, your friends and all of that. And so your passion found you, and it was something that was much needed. We're going to shift gears here
Yeah.
for a second because I
Okay.
need you to answer this question.
Yes.
Please tell us, what is the threat to building wealth, Jennifer?
Okay. The threat is
You
literacy.
saying it slow, you're making me scared.
I want to build that suspense. The threat, the threat to building wealth is literacy. It's literacy, and not necessarily financial literacy, just literacy, like
Mm.
reading and writing and comprehending. That's
Mm,
Elaborate on that.
yeah.
okay. Because when we think about literacy, and you all work in the financial services industry. I work in the financial
Yeah.
services industry. We know that the basics of building wealth is your assets should exceed your liabilities. So that means that what you have should exceed what you owe, right?
Right.
And for many of us, our greatest wealth building tool is our income. Okay. So when we start looking at the types of jobs that are getting ready to be available, or that are the jobs of the future, we see where technology is taking over. Industries where once it was, man, even industries like there was an article in the Houston Chronicle, a recent article that discussed how in the Permian Basin is struggling because of the low levels of literacy
Wow.
of its community. And with, used to be, Permian Basin, you work out there on the oil rigs, to be able to get a job in that field, you needed to have brute strength. You needed to, be able to, of course, have the soft skills,
Hmm.
coming on time, following
Right.
directions, things of that nature. But really just manual labor,
Yeah.
right? And now the technology, there's so much technology that's becoming available that, okay, well, now that we have more technology, there's not a need for as many workers.
Mm.
But with more technology means workers need more knowledge.
Right.
And if you have, and when I talk about literacy, I don't mean, first of all, I love to read, as y'all
Mm.
can tell. Um,
Yes.
and y'all don't even know what's on the, I mean, there's more books behind the wall, above, below. There are books on an iPad somewhere. There's way more. All right.
Right.
So I love to read, but when I talk about literacy, I don't talk about me reading the New York Times or the Houston Chronicle or a novel on the couch on a Sunday afternoon. That's
Right.
not what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
When we talk about literacy, we are talking about being able to function in society. For a person to be able to make decisions, in the workplace, with respect to that person's finances, with respect to that person's health, with respect to that person's family, society. I mean, come on, y'all, voting. Being able to do those things that you need to be able to do in society to thrive.
Mhm.
Mm.
That's a threat to where we are. And when I read that, and I read that article in the Chronicle, and I said, well, where's the article about what's happening in Harris County? I was like, when
Mm.
are they gonna write the article about okay, you writing that article about Permian Basin and about the Permian Basin's low literacy rates and what those what the industry out there is striving to do to fix it. But when are you gonna write that article about literacy in Harris County? Because let me tell
Mm.
you, did y'all know this? Did y'all know
Mm.
this? Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this?
We ready.
We're ready.
Okay. 1 out of 3 adults in Harris County are functionally illiterate.
Wow.
1 out of 3. And so when we think about, okay, so where does it come from? Well, I mean, they didn't just become illiterate when they became
Overnight.
adults. Yeah, when they became adults. I mean,
Right.
right, these things. So for me, one of the greatest threats that I see with my students, and I see it, I mean, so we see it in the workforce with, okay, you've got to have a higher level of literacy so you can be able to get these jobs. Like, that article was discussing how an energy worker is a tech worker. And in Houston, over the years, the Houston Metroplex, the powers that be, have done a great job of striving, and they still are striving to diversify the industry, beyond energy, beyond oil and gas. So in Houston, there are slated, what we're expecting is we're expecting to see all of these medical jobs, these medical jobs, these jobs that um, function within the realm of medicine or healthcare and technology. We're expected to see thousands of those jobs in the future, which we can bring millions of dollars to the region. And just imagine the possibilities of that. I mean, we're already seeing tech companies relocate to Houston. And of course, we live near, I mean, Houston is home to the Texas Medical Center, one of the greatest. I mean, we all know that people come from all over the world for care in the Texas Medical Center. So this is a
Absolutely.
great opportunity. So when we talk about, I mean, but imagine like if you struggle with reading, and reading is reading and writing and thinking, because reading is great, but writing, that's it. Because you can fake reading all you can Alfred Tatum.
Oh,
This
listen.
listen, Alfred Tatum, this prominent reading scholar, he
Yes.
researches African American boys and literacy. He
Hmm.
says you can fake reading, but you
Yes.
cannot fake writing.
Writing.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
and when you write, when I have my students write, writing is thinking, because they just they want to put something on the paper. I'm like, all right, in my essay writing for college admissions and scholarships class, and they write it and like, oh, Miss Jennifer, is this good enough? And I'm like, oh, I have more questions. Okay, I have more questions. And eventually they get to like 5 or 6 drafts, and they're thinking. I have to pull out tools.
Hmm.
Like I have a book just on I have multiple books just on punctuation.
Yeah.
And they're, and I teach them how to use these different sentences, and I'm always like, well, why would you use the sentence? What's the purpose of this sentence? Because writing is thinking. It's thinking, and the reading combined with the writing are the foundation for critical thinking skills. And when we think about the jobs of the future that merge the healthcare and the technology in the Houston metropolitan area, that's going to be all critical thinking.
Absolutely.
This is amazing, a subject matter, because in the area that the kids are in now, there is no writing because their thumbs do everything.
Hmm.
Everything is, they write like they're, writing a text. And I've experienced that in the classroom, on the university. You say write an essay, it's like, oh my God, really?
Mhm, mhm,
That hurts my wrist, that hurts my
mhm,
arm. It's
mhm,
hard for them to
mhm,
focus because they have not been the fundamentals that we were taught in school. It was reading, writing, and arithmetic. We had to get that. Now they put a
Absolutely.
keyboard in front of the children,
mhm,
at such an early age, and then they miss that component. And so
mhm,
it's hard when they make it to a college campus. And then I don't, teach English lit, but I would have to go back and pull those skills to try to get them to understand just the basics of putting together an outline. So I know
mhm,
that's got to be a challenge because you're dealing with that demographic all the time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, to your point, you're saying that you are what you're talking about how Michelle, you're talking about how the students who are coming to you in college classes, they're coming to you needing those skills that they should have
Absolutely.
picked up in
Fundamentals.
English composition, and that's
Absolutely.
how it is in education.
Right.
We have to we have to meet them where we are, and we have,
Right.
for me, I tell my students, my expectations are unyielding and my support is unstinting. So these are my expectations, and I'm going to
Right.
strive to bring you up. So, but it's such hard work now. I mean, especially with when you are working with students who are, at that collegiate level. So again, we know that these literacy problems did not just begin, and even
Exactly.
with me, most of my students are, in 8th grade or beyond, and in 2019. So this is before the onset of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
Nearly 75% of 8th graders in the state of Texas read below grade level.
Wow.
And, nevertheless, most likely, what happened to these students? They were promoted to 9th grade,
Yeah.
Hmm.
struggling to understand middle school level text.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout high school, what happens is they pass assignments that they don't understand.
Wow.
Thus, and so as parents are looking at because we live in a world of technology, and the parents nowadays can check the students' grades just like that. Like I know parents who could tell me what their child earned on the chemistry quiz, the yesterday afternoon. They can tell, oh, well, he has an 87 in that. Okay. You know, it's just, it's just at the speed of, it's different because we would have to wait for the report card.
Right.
Come out,
Yes,
right?
Progress report.
Or the progress report, right? Or we have to wait
exactly.
till
Yes.
the paper came home, right? And
Absolutely.
so when parents see these A's and B's beaming from a student's report card, because that's usually what happens, they see these A's and B's beaming from the report card. And by the way, these are not things that just happen because of the pandemic. These things have been going on,
Yes,
before the pandemic.
absolutely.
Um, and the parents believe that the student is traveling a path of college readiness. But really, the student is plotting a rutted road to limited opportunity. And let me tell you and let me tell you when it comes to a head. So when people call me quite often for test prep, preparing students for SAT, PSAT, and ACT. And I get it. These tests are imperfect. And do I believe that? So the highest that you can score on an SAT, for example, is a 1600. Do I believe that my student who scores a perfect score on the math section? I've had two kiddos make perfect scores, two girls make perfect scores on the math section. Do I think that those young ladies are going to be more prepared than my student who has like let's say if I have a student who scored an 800, the highest you can score on the math section is an 800. Do I think that student who scored an 800, I think that student is more prepared for college than my student who scores a 620? No, absolutely not. When it comes to ACT, the highest that a student can score on the ACT is a 36. Do I believe that a student who scores a 32 is more prepared for college than a student who scores a 21, 25? No, absolutely not. And often when people start talking about the test, they think, oh, the tests are racist. Oh, the tests are not for, oh, well, we can't do well on the test because we're not good test takers. Or, oh, our students are Black and Latino, and those tests are not written for us. Okay, here's the thing. Those tests, at a certain level, those tests are measuring college readiness. And the
Mm.
core of college readiness is reading. It is
Hmm.
Yep.
literacy. It is
Yeah.
it is it is that
Um,
that level. And when I have students who come to me, I have students who come to me as I am so upset. And this is why I had to start working with my younger students on literacy, because I get phone calls from these students calling me, these parents calling me, and the ACT score. So high student score on ACT is a 36. These students are coming to me with 14s and 15s, and they
Wow.
were seniors in high school. And
Wow.
if you show me a student, and these students don't have learning disabilities. I do work with students who have dyslexia and slow processing and ADHD and ADD. I do work with students who have those learning differences. But by and large, these students don't have any of those learning challenges. They cannot read. And they'll
Wow.
say, and I've had students, and the parents will call me and they'll be frustrated. They'll be like, I don't understand. He has A's and B's, or she's such a good student, or she's in AP classes and she can A. And I ask, well,
it's
how often does your student read? Oh, never. Okay, well, tell me about the homework. Oh, she does all her homework at school. And it's like, you know,
Hmm.
at this point of my career, these parents are my age and older.
yes.
So
Hmm.
I have to believe that you know better. Like you know that the way that we learned was independent practice.
Right, and through
Absolutely.
repetition, and then it's the thing. It's like what we fail to realize is that the majority of, I mean, and I know with my children, the majority of their skills came from home. I had a curriculum at home. My children knew how to read before they went to school
Nice.
because these are things that we're implementing in the home. And nowadays, the students, the teachers, it's just their job. They're
Mhm,
not really
Mhm.
caring about how well you perform. They
mhm,
don't care if you get to college.
mhm,
I want to hurry up and get to 3 o'clock so I can go home
mhm,
and
mhm,
pass them on so we don't have to deal with them next year.
mhm,
Yep.
mhm.
And we're actually in a sad state with the pandemic and everything that's going on currently, because there's actually a teacher shortage. Like there's literally school districts that started this year and they do not have enough teachers in the classroom right now.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for the teachers if their classroom sizes are 40, 50 kids to give the individualized attention that some of the kids need.
It's so many variables.
It's like,
to deal with.
it's not monocausatic.
Yeah.
And so it's a fascinating subject, and we appreciate you for jumping on and sharing this with us, because that's the foundation of our society. Like, and I had this conversation earlier, is like, athletes, NBA, NLB, MLB, all these other pro athletes, they get paid millions and millions of dollars because it's all about marketing and eyeballs. But teachers, which is the foundation of our society, they're the ones that's teaching any occupation, every profession that everybody goes into, and they get paid chump change compared to these star athletes. And it's just like, it seems like the value system is backwards. And so we wouldn't be able to generate any income, any value, any market value if it wasn't for the teachers. And they are so underpaid.
And we're so necessary. We're so necessary.
Absolutely.
I hope that what you shared tonight will jar the memory, the proactiveness of parents to do these things at home. I know we work and all of that kind of, but you have to make what your children are doing a priority. Pull out the books, ask them where those books are, read with them. These are activities that we need to do at home, because y'all know what your mama said, charity begins at home and then spreads abroad. Y'all know that.
So excellent. So how can people reach out to you if they're interested in contracting with you for your services?
All right. So a few people maybe let's there are three different types of people who are going to reach out to me. Number one, there are going to be people who are like, we got to prepare for a test and we don't know if we're behind or if we're on schedule. We don't know what we should be doing. Those people should go to my website, which is www.scholarready.com. And scholar, so it's the word scholar and ready together with just one R in the middle. So scholarready.com. If you can't find that, you can Google Jennifer Ledwith and that will come up. So scholarready.com. So that's the first group of people, the people panicking about the PSAT, SAT, and ACT. All right. The second group of people who are going to try to reach me are people who are going to want to have that support for their students throughout the school year, throughout the semester, for the math classes, to help with the math skills, the reading and writing skills. Those parents are going to want to contact me as well. They can reach me at scholarready.com. The word scholar, the word ready together, one word with just one R in the middle. All right. And there's going to be a third group of people. And the third group of people are going to be listening to this and they're going to be wondering, oh my gosh, I want my child to get scholarships, because the thing is, the SAT and ACT and PSAT, yes, the pandemic, in response to the pandemic, many of these colleges made these exams optional. Their admissions are test optional. But when you go and you read the how these colleges are making admissions decisions, read their common data sets, and you'll see that these test optional schools will list among their most important criteria, very important criteria for admissions, they will list test scores. So, they're test optional, but tests are very important for admissions. I'm gonna let you figure that out. And beyond the admissions decision, the schools are still using these tests to determine scholarships.
Well, how will that group reach you?
This is how this group can reach me. www.scholarready.com. Scholar, one word, ready, the word, pushed together, one R in the middle. And they can reach me because they're going to want to know where they need to get started. And I have a scholar readiness assessment where they'll learn where their student is with respect to college readiness and recommendations that they can follow in order to make sure that they're on that path.
Awesome.
Okay.
I love it. So cool. If anybody has any questions that's watching, feel free to type in the comments. And while they're doing that, is there any books or resources you would recommend?
Oh wow. All right. So books are resources. I really like for for preparing for SAT. There's the McGraw-Hill books. I love those books. Those are the books I use with my students to prepare them for exams. For books for questions about like the college going process. There's a book, I believe the writer, his name is Ron Lieber, and Lieber is Lieb as in boy, ER, Ron Lieber. And he wrote a book called The Price You Pay for College. And it is eye opening. You can read and you can understand, like, I mean, he gives like these actionable tips about what to do before you go on a campus visit, like how to evaluate these colleges, how colleges are choosing students. I mean, it's a wonderful book. It's eye opening. I use the things I learned from that book. I use that when I taught my college admissions and scholarships class, or essay writing for college admissions and scholarships class, because in addition to helping them write essays, I also help them to complete their applications. So that book is eye opening. There's another book. It's a very slim volume. It's somewhere on this bookshelf, and it's called "The Art of Styling Sentences." And if you want to elevate your writing, if you want it to be captivating, if you want your audience to remember you, learn how to write various sentences, because it can make your writing stand out um, beyond everyone else.
Amazing.
Excellent.
Great
So
stuff. Great stuff.
we have a
We have a
question.
question, Jennifer.
Okay.
So Jeffrey says, what can be done to increase literacy rates in our young Black students?
All right. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you for your question. All right. So, what can be done to increase literacy rates? All right. So, for our young Black students, well, the state of Texas is on a really good, has done something really great. The legislature passed a House bill a few years ago requiring teachers and their principals in elementary school to learn about the science of reading. And the science of reading has many components, but the main component is learning phonics. So learning how to actually solve words. For example, when I read a word, I'm going to sound it out if it's a new word for me. I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to be guess. I'm not going to guess at the word. I'm going to read it phonetically and I'm going to know it. So that's awesome for our younger learners, right? But as we what they also need to do is for our young Black children, it's about exposure. It's about, because what else? So phonics is important for reading, also the background knowledge. So what you have in your head when you come to a text, that helps you to be a better reader. So we have to expose our children to different things. One time I was teaching this young man, and he could read, like he was in the 11th grade and he could read flawlessly. He could pronounce words properly, even the words that were Spanish. And this is a young African American boy. He could pronounce the words flawlessly. And then I would ask him, well, what did you just read? And then he would tell me what he just read. And I was like, Michelle Darnold, I was like, look, I know we had to have just read a different thing. That cannot be true. Um, so so we have to, but when I would talk with him, it's exposure, because we read this story about a man who was taking a train trip and he decided to go economy class. And I was like, baby, what's economy class? And he was like, oh, that's the top of the line. And I was like, no. So what we have to do is we have to work on building background knowledge with our students. As parents, I know that I don't expect every parent to be able to teach their kiddo phonics, but expose them to things. Take them to the museums. Thanks to the pandemic, we don't have to, get in our cars and drive to
Yeah.
the museum district to go to, to visit the museums. You know, Feed their curiosity. If your students are curious about something, if they're curious about football or basketball, have them read about that topic. I mean, I have my students who love basketball and football. I pull an article from the New York Times and we read it, and it's professionally written. You've got to expose them to different things. You've got to take them to museums, take them, watch PBS documentaries, like expose them to things so they can build that background knowledge. So when they get to a text, they'll be able to read it. They'll be able to understand it.
Great,
Thank you.
great
That's awesome.
insight. Great insight.
So cool. Well, we appreciate you for being on. A lot of great wisdom. Oh my gosh, you're a wealth of knowledge. We appreciate you for sharing.
Absolutely.
And I love the spin.
No,
Yeah, the greatest threat is literacy.
Yeah. They thought you was gonna be talking about some money, but that is
Well, I mean, it is
that's
because
gold right there. That
yeah,
is.
yeah, it's scholarships.
Mhm.
It's it's the jobs that we have. It's and even if let's say that a person can just go to college, and let's say a person comes from a family where he or she can just go work in the family business, so doesn't really have to go to college to make a living. Don't have to really compete for a job, can just go can just go work in a family business.
Yeah,
I mean, in business, and y'all all know this, every day there's a new problem that you have to solve.
absolutely.
And the literacy, the reading, the writing, the thinking are crucial to solving problems. And that person in that job would reverse not only his or her own fortunes, but the fortunes of his or her family because
Mhm.
of poor literacy skills.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we know sounds like you're definitely passionate about it. So keep up the good work. We commend you for everything you're doing.
Such a pleasure to have you here tonight,
Thank
Jennifer.
you.
Thank
Thank
Yeah,
you
you.
all for welcoming me. Thank you.
no problem. Hang out in the waiting room and we'll wrap this up.
Don't leave.
All right, cool.
Oh
That's
yeah,
exciting.
it really was. I really loved her perspective, and it was just with a lot of depth, her knowledge. And so I really
So
hope that people uh, share this with parents, share this with students. I
Mhm.
think it would be a great learning tool for them.
Mhm. Yeah.
absolutely, because when it comes to market value, like you're paid based on the problem you solve.
Right.
Like the reason janitors get paid minimum wage is because anybody could sweep, anybody could clean. But the
Mhm.
reason surgeons get paid six-figure incomes is because not many people are willing to go to school that long. A,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and
There you
then,
go.
or they're not willing to have that knowledge because you have to retain a lot of the body parts, how they work, how they
Yeah.
operate together, and
Mhm.
so that all takes literacy.
Right.
So cool. Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you got any value, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, share this with your friends and family. Let's get Jennifer's name out there. If you know anybody that has a student that's currently from middle school to high school, send them Jennifer's way. That way they could start off college on the right foot and they
Yes.
don't have to go into financial debt, which
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
we're in a unique time in history where student loan debt is the highest debt out of
Hmm.
any debt, even credit card debt,
Yeah.
which is surreal in my mind. So
Donald, how can people get in touch with you?
yeah, so go ahead and check out my website. We have a lot of really exciting events coming up. So let me share that right quick because one's this weekend. So
Yes.
it's this men's conference. Andrew Landry is putting it on. I'm super excited. It's called Where Men Hurt. And
Hmm.
so I'm gonna be talking about the finance, and I have a really exciting subject to talk about. So you definitely want to tune in. But we have a lot of other great speakers speaking on everything from physical health to fatherhood to relationships to even business. So it's going to be at 8 o'clock a.m. It goes through 3:30. It's
Hmm.
at San Jack North, and it's here in Houston on 5800 Uvalde Road. And
Yes.
so it's this Saturday. Come check us out. Your tickets online. Go to my website, Darnold Jr., to get your tickets. Doctor and I, we have Money Smart
We're
for
so
Teens
excited
coming up.
about this.
Yes, it's going to be at the High Meadows Branch Library in
Mhm.
Aldine, Texas. And so if you have a kid, middle school, high school, even early college level,
Yes.
come join us on September 8th at 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be super exciting. Get the teens started off on the right foot. We have a heart for educating people because I feel like that's where it should start. Because if
Mhm.
they educated us in high school like they should, then we would have made a lot of mistakes that we made and we'd be further along than we are now.
Right.
But that's okay. Live and learn, right? That's the
Yeah.
purpose of the show.
Yes.
So if you feel that, go ahead and subscribe, right? And then Judge Lucia Bates is also hosting her own teen summit. And so that's going to be on September 10th.
Mhm.
Check out my website for the details. I'm going to fly through this. I also am part of a host group for a men's conference, and this one's going to be completely free. So come check it out. We're going to have free food. We're going to have a lot of vendors there. We're going to have a lot of great speakers, everything for helping men go to that next level. So that's going to be on September 17th at 10 a.m. And super excited about this one. My birthday is coming
Yay.
up. It's September 5th, but the networking event is going to be on the 22nd because it's going to be a joint networking party with
Right.
Margaret Cruz.
Yes.
And so it's going to be at Pitch 25. So if you're anywhere in Houston, come hang out with us. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have vendors. We're going to have food. It's going to be great. So come check it out. And last but not least, Boost Your Sales Skill Workshop. That's around the corner. I can't believe we're like a month away. So if you haven't grabbed your tickets, the discount ends on September 1st. So get the discounted tickets while you can. There's only 11 days left in September. Oh my gosh, you only have 11 days to get the discounted rates. Otherwise, it's going to be bumped up to regular price. So jump on that. Communication skills are vital. I don't care what you're doing, whether you're a leader, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in the sales professional, you're going to have to know how to communicate effectively with people, how to read people effectively. And that's exactly what we're going to learn at this workshop. So come check it out. So to get a hold of me, darnoldjr.com, and pretty much any social media, darnoldjr.com. So cool. How can they get a hold of you, Doctor?
You can find me on Instagram, Michelle DeSalle, The Wealth Tattletale. And if you want to do a consultation with me, you can find me at centricadvisor.com. Thank you.
Yep. So cool. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and stay tuned next week. We have a really exciting show for you. I appreciate you guys for getting lit.